Welcome dear students. In our earlier session we have discussed the constraints in SQL, right? And we have also learned one of the constraint, that is primary key. In today's session, let me introduce you all the other types of constraints. In today's session we shall understand SQL foreign key constraint. So foreign key is actually visible, or it exists only when there are multiple tables in a database. What do we mean by multiple tables or multiple relation in a database, in a domain, in a company domain? We have employee table or employee relation, department relation, project relation, dependent relation, right? Project relation. So when there are multiple relations in a domain or multiple tables in a domain what we have created, of course there exists a relationship between a table or between the relations. So how to have or how to get the relationship among the tables or the relation? It is with the help of which key? Foreign key. I hope you all remember that. So the foreign key is a constraint which is used to prevent actions that would destroy links between tables. So if you want to have a relation or link between employee relation and department relation, all the employees will be working for one or the other department, or department will be employing the employees. Department consists employees, right? So there is a link between employee and department table or a relation. So foreign key is a constraint which is going to help to have a which one, a link between any two relation. Okay, so it is a field in one table that refers to the primary key in another table. So the very best example is EMP table or employee table. Table is also referred as relation. Okay, students, don't get confused. Employee table or employee relation and department relation. So employee table will be holding SSN, e-name, employee name, the what salary, address, date of birth, etc., etc. Along with that, department number, DNO, department number. In the employee relation, you will be having DNO, what column or attribute, right? Yes, what is DNO? DNO is a primary key which is belonging to which relation? Department relation. Are you all understanding? So here DNO is referred as a foreign key which actually is a primary key of another table. Are you all understanding? So a foreign key is a field in one table that refers to the primary key in another table. So the table with the foreign key is also called as a child table. So any, for example, employee relation is now having SSN as its own primary key. Along with that, it is having DNO, which is a primary key of which one? Department relation. It means what? Department number in the employee relation acts as a foreign key. So what they are saying is the table with the foreign key, like for example the employee relation or the employee table with the foreign key, which is that foreign key department number, is called as the child table. It is also referred as what? Child table. And the table with the primary key is called the referenced or parent table. So department is actually linked with the help of DNO, foreign key, in the employee relation, right? So what is called or what is referred for the department relation? It is referred as what? Table with which is having the primary key is actually, I mean, department is a table with the DNO primary key, right? So that table is called as what? Parent table. If employee table, which is holding the department number as a foreign key, then employee table is called as what? Child table. So which is a parent table? Department relation or department table. Okay. So and the table with the primary key is called as the referenced or the parent table. Reference table or parent table, because department number is actually belonging to department relation, right? So the department relation or table becomes a parent table or referenced table. Okay, remember these terms. Now consider this example. The above one is persons table and below is the order table. So foreign key constraint actually come into picture when we want to have a link between two tables or two relations. So when there are multiple relations, when there are multiple tables in a database, and if we want to give a relation or link between them, then we are making use of which one? Foreign key. Okay. So for this foreign key constraint, I have to take more than one table, I mean multiple tables. So which are the two tables you are observing? One is persons table and another one is orders table. So person table is having what? Person ID, last name, first name and age. So it is a simple example. We have taken person ID, last name, first name and age information. Then order table you are having. What is it? Order ID, order number and who has ordered. Some person has to order which one? Some item, right? So this is what the order number is. What? So there are many. For example, some 100 orders are there. So we are maintaining that order number as a order ID. So order number 77895. So whoever orders, so that order is given a number, order number. Okay. So like this. So maybe this order may have only one item, another order 44678 may have three items that are being ordered, like that it varies. Okay. So it is simply the order number, the any person who has ordered for anything, so for that particular order they have given one order number. So now remember students, here the exact table, person table is with which attributes or columns? Person ID, last name, first name and age. So the person's last name, first name, then ID is given to each of them and age is also noted. And in the order table, in the original what the definition of order table, which is the which are the attributes belonging to order ID and only order number. Okay. So any person has to order something, right? So there should be relation between person and order. So that is why foreign key constraint is used. Are you all understanding? So now order table is maintaining which one? Person ID, because they want to know a particular order is made by which person. So which is a foreign key here? Person ID. See, a person ID acts as a foreign key, and any table which is holding the foreign key becomes a child table of which one? uh, I mean, if order table becomes the child table, which is a parent table. See, person ID is actually the primary key of which table? Person table, right? So person table becomes the parent table or the reference table, and order table becomes the child table. Are you all understanding? So this is what the foreign key, person ID. So we are giving the relation between these two relation with the help of foreign key constraint, that is person ID. What is a foreign key? Foreign key is a key which is actually a primary key of another table. Are you all understanding? So person ID is a primary key of which table? Person table. Okay, fine. Now just check out here. Let us observe the information. Order ID is 1. Order number 77895. Which person has ordered this? Person ID is 3. See, observe here. 3 means this information. 3 should exist in which table? Person table. So here person ID is considered as 2. In the order ID 3, what is the person ID? 2. Whether 2 exists in the person table? Yes, 2 is a primary key which exists in the person table. Then it is a valid one. And here order ID 4. Who has ordered this? Ordered it? Person ID 1. 1 exists? Yes, in the person table 1 exists. So 44678 is a order number which is ordered by person ID 3. Whether 3 exists? Yes, 3 exists. Then these foreign key constraint values what we are finding 3, 3, 2, 1. They all are existing in which table? Person table. So any person can order any number of times the items, right? So that is why, like person ID 3, he has ordered 2 items, I think. So 2 different IDs or order number have been given. Okay. Remember children, right? The person ID in the person table, it is a primary key and it should be unique. It should not repeat. It should be unique. 1, 2, 3. All are unique. Here 2, again person ID 2 we cannot take, it gives the error. Okay, so primary key means what? It should be unique. Okay, whereas just check out here. person ID acts as a foreign key in which table? Order table. You are finding 3 is repeated, right? Yes, no issue if it is repeated, because as I am telling here, person ID 3, the person whose ID is 3, that is Peterson, he has ordered two items. Are you all understanding? So that is why two numbers are being given. Just check out the order number or order ID here. These information, order ID, order number, both should be what? It should be unique. Here, it cannot be repeated. Are you all understanding? So foreign key values can be repeated, no issues, because it is linking, it is giving the reference between the which one, order table and the person table, right? It is referring person table who has ordered that particular items, like that. So always primary key here in the person table, person ID is a primary key, it should be unique, only once that value should appear. Similarly, order ID is a primary key in order table, and order number, even even though it is not a primary key here, it is what, uh, having the constraint what, unique means what, order number should be unique, it should not be repeated. Or are you all following? Yes. So notice that the person ID column in the order table points to the person ID column in the person table. So just now what I told, the statements are referring the same. The person ID column in the person table is a primary key in the person table. So person ID is a primary key of person table. The person ID column in the order table is acting as a foreign key in which table? Order table. So the foreign key constraint prevents invalid data from being inserted into the foreign key column, because it has to be one of the values contained in the parent table. Here, what they are telling is, in the person ID, it is acting as a foreign key. Here, 3, 3, 2, 1, what values we are observing, it should exist in which table? In the person table, in the person ID column. Those values should exist there. Suppose if you find here in place of person ID, in the person ID column, if you had found any other value like 4 and 5, suppose if 4 and 5 was there in any one of the row, then 4 and 5 is a invalid value. So I mean, when you are executing the queries and all, it will be giving the error. Why? Because 4 and 5 does not exist in which one? In the person table. So there doesn't exist any person ID with 4 and 5. So you can't take any random value here at the person ID if it is not existing in which table? Person ID. Okay, so remember that the foreign key constraint prevents invalid data. So this is what the nature, like in case by mistake also, if you are using 4 and 5, it is going to give you the error message, throw the information, the message that it is a invalid data. It means what? That 4 and 5 doesn't exist in which table? Person table, in the person ID. Okay, so this foreign key is actually preventing for which type of data entry, any by mistake, if any invalid data is entered, it is trying to recognize that and it throws the proper error. Okay, so this is about the foreign key constraint. Okay, so let us just check how the foreign key is declared in a table. So assume that you are creating a table. Like now we are having which one? Already observe this example. Person table is already existing. Now if we are creating a order table, see, person table, all the attributes are related to person only. Whereas now let us assume that we are creating which table? Order table, and we don't have any attributes right now. So it is a new table what we are creating. So we want order ID as a particular attribute, order number as a attribute, and person ID. Person ID is one of the what primary key of person table, which we have to include because we should give the relation between order table and person table. So let us now just check out how to define a foreign key. Okay, so just check out here. The following SQL creates a foreign key on the person ID column when the order table is created. So create table orders. Create table, what is the table name? Orders. And as I just now told you, order table has to include order ID, it has to include order number, then it is going to include a foreign key, that is person ID, which is a primary key of person table. So how will we define the information? Just check out here. I hope you remember the syntax of create table. Create, this is a table, create table, both are keywords. Following to that, what is a new table we are creating? Orders is a new table we are creating. Create table orders, open parenthesis, which is a first attribute we want to include, order ID. See, order ID is mentioned, and you should tell it is going to be, I mean, it is of which data type. So order ID is of integer data type. So I am providing int, I am mentioning int here. And what is the constraint we are using? Yes, not null I have not yet shown you, but like how we have included primary key, person ID, int, what is it? Um, I mean the primary key, like that. Here it is order ID in not null means it should not be empty. Okay, it should not be empty. So here students, we can also use order ID number. What is the data type? Number within parenthesis, like 2 or 3, like 2 digit or 3 digit order ID. Or if you I mean there may be some many orders, right? So it is better to restrict some what places, like 5 places. Order ID number within parenthesis 5, not null. It means what? It should not be empty. It should not be left empty. It should be filled with certain ID information. And you are supposed to give which one? The primary constraint. So here not null is also a constraint. Primary key is also a constraint. So it means what? This order ID should not be empty. It meaning to say it has to be given with certain value, and whatever the value we specify, that will be considered as a primary key. It should be unique. Okay, then which is the other attribute? Order number. Here they have taken in, so no issues, we can take number of 6. What is a place value we can give? Number of 6 or 7, like that. Then not null. It means what? Order number also is compulsory. You should fill the value for order number. Then finally foreign key. What is the foreign key we are using? Person ID. Observe the syntax students here. In the person table. So in the person table we are having, what is a attribute name? Primary key name is what? Person ID. In the foreign key also we are taking the same name. Here person ID, here also person ID. Yes, no issue. You can take or refer the same name, or else here you can also give something like PID. Short form also you can use, no issue. Either you can use the same name what you have put in the person table, or else you can use a new name, like as I just now told you, you can use PID also, short form. Okay, so now this is what, like the foreign key name what we are choosing in which table? Order table. Okay, so person ID itself, the same name we have taken. What you are defining? Int. So remember here, when we are declaring the foreign key person ID, which is referring the primary key of person table, the definition means what? That person ID is belonging to which data type, what is the data capacity to hold in it, that is the size of the data type, everything has to be what? It, all this has to be matching to which one? The primary key of the person table. So whatever the definition you are putting in the foreign key in order table, the definition should match what? Which one? The primary key of which table? Person table. Okay, so in the person table, the person ID is referred as integer data type. So here also the person ID which we are choosing as a foreign key, here we have mentioned int, or else you can use number. If it is used as number of 6, then foreign key, here you are putting primary key, right? Here we can use foreign key. Then references, this is a keyword students. Foreign key references, it means what? Person ID which is referencing which table? The person which is referring person ID in which table? Persons table. Okay, so person ID integer, or the number of 6. Number is a data type, 6 is what? The size. Okay, person ID number within parenthesis 6, foreign key, references, foreign key and references. All these are keywords. References, which is a table. What is the attribute? References, person ID, references, person ID. Okay, sorry. What is the table name here? Table name is persons only, right? The table name is only persons. Here the table name is only orders. So this is only persons. So person ID, integer or number of 6 with the data type and size information. References, keyword. What is the table name? Persons. References, persons. Within the parenthesis, what is the attribute name here? Person ID. Okay, see, person ID in foreign key references, persons, person ID. Okay, so this is how we are going to define a foreign key. So sometimes, like if you are using person in SQL, person ID number of 6, references directly we can, we can skip foreign key constraint, the keyword, and we can simply write which one? References followed by which table they are referring? Persons table, and in that table what is the ID? That is person ID. So that they are referring. This is a meaning when we are defining a foreign key in the table. Okay, fine. Now let us discuss about check constraint. Now let us discuss check constraint. What is the meaning of it? For example, students, like when we are storing the information in a table. Okay, suppose the age factor, what we all are familiar with that particular attribute. If we are adding the values for the age column, age attribute, okay, and if you want to restrict the limit, if you want to give a limit, like age should be above 18 or within 30. Okay, some age constraint, some limitation you should give. So within what range the value should be added. Okay, so you can fix that kind of what data. Similarly, like in the sex column or attribute, if you are allowing only male and female, then you can also add that as a constraint with the help of check constraint. Like either we can fill the value for that sex attribute as either M or F. No other what values other than M and F. Okay, like this we can give the restriction. So how to do that? Let us discuss with the help of a check constraint. The check constraint is actually used to limit the value range that can be placed in a column. So column means what? An attribute, what I just now told. So for a gender, if you want to allow only female and male value, either F or M, then you can achieve that. You can limit the value range with the help of this constraint. If you define a check constraint on a column, it will allow only certain values for this column. So check constraint can be added or defined for a particular column. If you define a check constraint on a table, it can limit the values in certain columns based on values in other columns in the row. So we can also based on the table, we can also fix the constraints or limit a particular range of values, define the constraints on a table also, on the overall table. Okay, so how does that work? So it can limit the values in certain columns. So for example, if you are telling that if it is a female employee, then some percentage of what what we say discount is given for the which one? Fees. Okay, if it is a female, suppose if you want to give a showcase that you're giving preference for the female students to get enrolled in a particular course. And if you want to pay attention, or if you want to gain attention of the female candidates for that particular course, and if you want to fix a which one the like some what fees related concession for the female students. Okay, so you can define a constraint with the help of check constraint on a table also. Like if it is based on the value of one column, that it means what, if it is a female candidate, if gender is F, gender is female, then the fees of the course, okay, the fees of the course you can fix to some particular value. Did you all understand? Suppose if the fee structure is some 50,000, okay? If the fee structure is something like 50,000, okay? If it is fixed like that, and based on the value of the gender attribute, like if you want to check if the gender is female, if the value of the gender is F, then the fee structure should be something like 48,000. Okay, so like that. These are certain things which can be applied with the help of check constraint. Okay, now SQL check on create table. So how do we use, like how we have now understood how to use primary key, foreign key, right, during the creation of table. So how to add the check constraint? So you are having many ways or many examples to add check constraint, which we'll be discussing. So in the current discussion, I'll show one of the example like this. The following SQL creates a check constraint on the age column when the person table is created. So we are now familiar with the person table. There we are having person ID, first name, last name, and age, right? So if we want to add certain constraint to the age attribute, how can we do that? Observe here, the check constraint ensure that the age of a person must be 18 or older. Okay, so older means above 18. Just check here. Create table person. So you are now familiar with the table syntax here. Create table is a keyword. What is the table name? Persons. So here person ID. ID int not null. Last name varchar with size what, 255 not null. Then first name varchar 255. So even though first name is not compulsory, last name is mandatory. It means what? It should not be left empty. First name can be left empty because here not null is not added constraint, right? So last name varchar 255 not null is what? Not null is also one of the constraint where you are telling last name is compulsory. Okay, and ID is what? Entering the person ID is also necessary. It should not be left empty. That is why you are specifying not null. Then first name varchar 255. So it is, if the first name is not applicable for any of the person, then it can be left empty. Okay, then age is a attribute. Age int. Yeah, so int, either int or I have told you we can use number also. Okay, number data type. So in our frequent implementation, implementation will be frequently using which data type? Number. Okay. Okay, if you are specifying number, you should specify the size also. Okay, age int, and here in case if I am replacing int with number, age number of 2. What is the maximum value I am taking? 2-digit value for age. See, just check out here. Check. See, this is a constraint what we are adding. What is a constraint? Check. See, within the parenthesis, for which column you are adding the restriction. It is for the age column or the age attribute, right? So within parenthesis, age should be greater than equal to what value? 18. That is a constraint we have added with the age. So whenever we are entering any value for the age in the person table, if you, let us assume person table is already created and now you have entered person ID, last name is entered, first name is entered, and now if I am entering age as 15, 1, 5. So it is going to check when 15 is added, it is going to check whether that age 15 is greater than or equal to 18. If it is false, an error is given. Okay, that is, it is not a valid value. If you in case if you give 18, yes, 18 is equal to 18, it is going to check. Then it allows, no error is shown. Okay, so if it is something like 12, so 12 is again not greater than or equal to 18, so it is going to show the error. Are you all understanding? So this is how any values, if you want to check the limitation or the range of values, that you can achieve with the help of a check constraint. Okay, so these are certain advantages we have with the uh, database what creation with the required information. And when we are, if we want to be very specific with the values, if the values has to be valid, it has to be correct, then we can achieve that with the help of these constraints. Okay students, in our next session we shall discuss more constraints other than which one the till now discussed. Okay, so we are now familiar with the primary key, foreign key, then check constraint, and in between I also gave the meaning of adding the not null constraint, right? Yes, we'll discuss more regarding this in our next session. Thank you.